What's this smooth blur behind me? What do we use it for in photography, and how do we control it? When I first started out in photography, I always associated those smooth, blurry backgrounds with professional photography. And as I learned to control depth of field and bokeh, it was one of those big aha moments that really got me excited about photography. Bokeh, simply put, is just the aesthetics of the out-of-focus areas in the photo. But there's a lot of use cases for this in photography. Using a shallow depth of field and getting those smooth, creamy backgrounds really helps to isolate subjects and draw your attention to what's important in the photo. And this is used extensively through professional photography. Does that mean we should always shoot with a shallow depth of field and strive to get smooth, creamy bokeh? No, absolutely not. But like anything else in photography, it is a tool that we like to keep in our pockets to use when the situation needs it. That's why it's important that we understand how it works so that we can use it to our advantage. So how do we control bokeh? Let's start with what's most commonly associated with it: aperture. Simply put, wider apertures will decrease the depth of field and produce smoother bokeh. Lens focal length plays a huge part in how bokeh is rendered. Longer or more telephoto lenses will also decrease your depth of field and compress the background while producing a smoother out of focus area. So if you look at the apertures between a wide and a telephoto lens, given the same aperture, the more telephoto lens will have a shallower depth of field and produce a smoother background. Another key component that controls the rendering of our out of focus areas is our distance to subject and subject's distance to background. This is easy to practically demonstrate since lens focus works similar to how our eyes work. If you hold your finger out and focus on it and slowly bring it closer to your eyes, you'll notice that the background will blur more and more as it gets closer to your eyes. It may seem like common sense that the further away the background is from your focal point, the more blurred it will be, but it's not always thought through when you're taking photos because sometimes there's a lot of other things going on that you're paying attention to. So when you're taking a photo and if your subject is close to the background, you'll get a little more of that in focus. If you really want smooth and blurred out backgrounds, it helps to have your subject separated from the background. There is one more factor that plays into the rendering of bokeh and the look of it in your photo, and that is the lens quality and design. Some lenses are just built to produce more pleasing bokeh, and it really depends on your personal preference. But a lot of this has to do with the glass design as well as the aperture blades within the lens and the number of aperture blades. The shape of the aperture opening is what determines the shape of what is commonly referred to as bokeh balls. The more aperture blades, the more rounded the aperture opening will be, and in turn, more rounded bokeh balls that will be rendered. It really doesn't matter what type of photography you do. Having an understanding of how to control the rendering of the out of focus areas in our images is a key component to understanding photography as a whole, and it's a great tool to keep in our pocket to get the most out of our photos.